Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I am Ms. Nargis Fatma, lecturer from Zoology Department, Pias College, Kasur, as a co-teacher of course Evolution and Principles of Systematic. Main teacher is Dr. Muhammad Mudassir Shehzad from Division of Science and Technology, University of Education, Lahore. Our today's topic is Fisher's view of natural selection. All the rights of this lecture are transferred to the University of Education, Lahore. Now let's start the lecture. Now the stabilizing selection. Selection that favors intermediate trait values. The average trait values stays the same. Genetic diversity is reduced at the relevant loci. Examples: selection for an optimal number of fingers. Number 2, selection for optimal body size. Number 3, selection for optimal number of offspring. Here is in this graph you can see that at the both extremes of the phenotype, the intermediate phenotypes are favored, and the slope of the phenotype is showing that the phenotypes after selection is intermediate. Another example of stabilizing selection. When both phenotypic extremes are deleterious, then the natural selection narrows the phenotypic range. As you can see, the narrowing of range in this graph for the selection of an optimal number of eggs in a bird, you can see that the stabilizing selection narrows the phenotype at both ends of the range. This is the slope of phenotype for the starting of the population, and this is after the stabilizing selection. As we know that stabilizing selection maintains an already existing system. It eliminates organisms to deviate from the norm. For stabilizing selection to occur, environment must remain unchanged. A famous example is of horseshoe crab, i.e. Limulus. Here in this diagram you can see the crab. It is a good example because the horseshoe crab, which lives along the Atlantic coast of United States, the comparison of the fossil record with living forms indicates that this body form has changed little over 200 million years. Apparently, the combination of characteristics present in this group of animals is adaptive for the horseshoe crab's environment, and this explains why there are living fossils. Now, disruptive selection. Disruptive selection favors the extremes. Genetic diversity is increased, favors novel beneficial alleles, knockout alleles that code for intermediate traits, can lead to the formation of new species. Now, as in this diagram, you can see that the slope of the phenotype has been divided into two subpopulations. For example, niches partnering, specialization on different resources, food, differences in habitat use, sexual selection for different traits, blue birds mate with blue, red birds mate with red, intermediate colors selected against. Now, disruptive selection. In this diagram, you can see the growth of Agrostis tenuis on uncontaminated and contaminated soil. Plants on uncontaminated soil do not usually carry metal-resistant alleles, while plants on contaminated soil are likely to carry metal-resistant alleles. Now look at the graph that the slope of the phenotype is like bell-shaped curve before the starting of the population, and after the disruptive selection has occurred in the population, the shape of the slope has been changed and divided into two slopes. This shows that two subpopulations has been occurred in the population after disruptive selection. Now I will discuss about the Fisher's fundamental theorem on natural selection. This theorem states that the rate of increase in fitness of any organism at any time is equal to its genetic variance at that time, and it was proposed by Ronald Fisher in his book The Theory of Natural Selection in 1930. Now I will discuss about explanation. Fisher couched his argument in terms of parental expenditure and predicted that parents' expenditure on both sexes should be equal. This means that sex ratios that are 1 to 1 are known as Fisherian, and those that are not 1 to 1 are non-Fisherian or extraordinary. Increase in fitness is the increase in the population mean additive genetic values of fitness. Further, it is the additive genetic values at the time of selection that counts. Genetic variance. The additive genetic variance, i.e. the variance in additive effects in the population. Fitness cannot increase forever, and Fisher was perfectly aware of it. However, natural selection will always tend to increase fitness, while changes in the environment, such as an increased population density, can decrease fitness. Development of the argument. Fisher's principles is an early example of a model in which genes for greater production of either sex become equalized in population, because each sex supplies half the genes of all the future generations. Fisher's principle is rooted in the concept of frequency dependence to explain how natural selection can act on genes that affect the frequency of an individual's grandchildren without affecting the frequency of their children. Now, sexual selection. Sexual selection refers to an organism's ability to successfully compete for a mate or the ability to choose a mate. This selection allows certain members of a population to reproduce more than others, therefore passing on their traits more than others. It arises through variance in mating success. Now you can see in this diagram a peacock flaunting his tail, and this is known as the extravagant male ornament. The peacock's tail greatly impairs his mobility. How could such a trait evolve? Hypothesis for male ornaments. According to Fisher-Runway hypothesis, male choice originally evolved to facilitate additive choice for traits conferring a survival advantage. Once female preference evolved, any gene that conferred survival advantage but compromised attractiveness would not be passed on because surviving males would fail to mate. इसका मतलब ये है कि अगर फीमेल में प्रेफरेंस एवॉल्व हो जाती है तो कोई भी जीन जो कि कन्फर कर रहा है सर्वाइवल एडवांटेज को लेकिन अब साथ ही कॉम्प्रोमाइज कर रहा है अट्रैक्टिवनेस को, तो वो पास ऑन नहीं होगा और इसकी वजह से जो मेल्स हैं सर्वाइविंग मेल्स वो मेट नहीं कर सकेंगे. Now the question is that why there are ornaments. In this diagram, you can see the Fisher's runaway model. Here is the fitness and here is the tail length. Now look at the diagram that here is the survival advantage and the genes for female preference arises at this stage. The length of the tail increases because of the survival advantage and female choice occurs. Now at this stage, optimal tail length for survival arises and the tail becomes much longer because of the female choice. Now have a look at this diagram. Long-tailed widow bird. Experimental manipulation of the tail length. Males with unnaturally long tails attract females away from the nest of normal males or males with shortened tail. As you can see in this, graph also. Now here is another example, barn swallow. Experimental manipulation of tail length shows that males with elongated tails obtain mates more quickly, have greater reproductive success, and experience a cost in tail size the following year, as you can see in the graph. Condition that males and female cost equal amounts to produce. Suppose male births are less common than female. A newborn male then has better mating prospects than a newborn female and therefore can expect to have more offsprings. Therefore, parents genetically disposed to produce males tend to have more than average number of grandchildren born to them. The genes for male producing tendencies spread and the male births become more common. As the 1:1 sex ratio is approached, the advantage associated with producing males dies away. The same reasoning holds if females are substituted for males throughout. Therefore, 1:1 ratio is the equilibrium ratio. And this is the Fisher's concept. In any case, the equilibrium for both the sexes should be 1:1. In modern language, the ratio 1:1 ratio is the evolutionary stable strategy ESS. In a population of individuals displaying the ESS, i.e., producing equal number of sons and daughters, any other strategy, e.g., 51% sons and 49% daughters, would have lower fitness and hence would be selected against. इसका मतलब ये है कि अगर जो इंडिविजुअल्स हैं 1:1 रेशियो अगर अपनी जो है वो स्टेबल रखते हैं तो ही वो फिट हैं और सेलेक्ट होंगे, लेकिन अगर जो रेशो है वो 51% सन्स है और 49% डॉटर्स है तो फिर वो लोअर फिटनेस शो कर रहे हैं और फिर रिजल्ट क्या होगा, दे आर सिलेक्टेड अगेंस्ट. नाउ द पेरेंटल एक्सपेंडिचर. Specifically, Fisher frames his argument in terms of parental expenditure. In organisms of all kinds, the young are launched upon their careers endowed with a certain amount of biological capital derived from their parents. मीन्स के पेरेंट्स जो हैं जब अपने यंग वंस को ग्रो करते हैं, उनको फीड करवाते हैं और उनकी तमाम ज़रूरियात का ख्याल रखते हैं, तो उसके लिए उन्हें सर्टन अमाउंट ऑफ एनर्जी रिक्वायर होती है और वो उन पर इन्वेस्ट करते हैं इन द फॉर्म ऑफ बायोलॉजिकल कैपिटल. और इस जो इन्वेस्टमेंट को हम कहते हैं पेरेंटल एक्सपेंडिचर. This varies enormously in amount in different species, but in all there has been, before the offspring is able to lead an independent existence, a certain expenditure of nutriment in addition, almost universally, to some expenditure of time and activity, which the parents are induced by their instincts to make for the advantage of their young. जो पेरेंट्स हैं यूनिवर्सली अगर बात की जाए तो तमाम स्पीशीज़ के वो अपने यंग वंस को टाइम भी देते हैं, उनको जो ज़रूरियात का ख्याल भी रखते हैं, उनको एनर्जी अपनी इन्वेस्ट करते हैं सारी ज़िंदगी उन पे टू ब्रॉट देम अप, और इसके अलावा उनको फीड करवाते हैं और इनकी तमाम जो ज़रूरियात का ख्याल पेरेंट्स रखते हैं, तो ये सब कुछ अपने यंग वंस के फ़ायदे के लिए है और ये चीज़ पेरेंट्स की इंस्टिंक्ट में है कि उन्होंने अपने जो बच्चे हैं उनका ख्याल रखना है. From this it follows that the sex ratio will so adjust itself under the influence of natural selection that the total parental expenditure incurred in respect of children of each sex shall be equal. लेकिन मोस्टली केसेस में ये भी देखा गया है कि जो फीमेल्स हैं वो बहुत जो है ज़्यादा एक्सपेंडिचर शो करती हैं एज कम्पेयर टू मेल. For if this were not so, the total expenditure incurred in producing males, for instance, were less than the total expenditure incurred in producing females. Then, since the total reproductive value of the males is equal to the total reproductive value of females, it would follow that those parents, the innate tendencies of which cause them to produce males in excess, would for the same expenditure produce a greater amount of reproductive value. And in consequence would be the progenitors of a large fraction of future generations than would parents having a congenital bias towards the production of females. Selection would thus raise the sex ratio until the expenditure upon the males become equal to that upon the females. Fisher's concept of parental expenditure, now termed parental investment, developed particularly by Robert Drivers, is now an important concept in ecology. Thank you, and that's all about today's lecture.